Hey guys, today's video is going to be this makeup tutorial with some of my favorite tips, tricks, and brushes that I use as a professional makeup artist. So I don't always use a primer, but one of the main things that you should always be doing with your makeup is always hydrating. So whether you're going to use a glowy hydration base or you're going to use a moisturizer serum, whichever, you need to be putting something on underneath your makeup or else it won't last as long and it might just not look as smooth and as good. So I'm going to go ahead and start my face with the Lumi Glotion in the shade 902. I'm going to be generous with it. I want a nice, just healthy looking skin today. For myself, I always use my hands. I find it melted into your skin a lot better than a brush will, and it really just blends in like butter. Gives you that really healthy, natural looking glow. So when I do my one-on-ones and my lessons, a lot of people are surprised that I start with the eyes. I do that because there's usually a lot of fallout from eyeshadows, and it is just so much easier to perfect your eye and then wipe away anything underneath without it having to bother your concealer and set face already. So just start with your eyes. I promise you it's 10 times easier. So I'm going to go in with the Maybelline Fit Me in the shade 05, and then one of my favorite concealer brushes to really carve out the bottom of the brow is Morphe M166, and it is just a rounded head brush, very flat, and it's just very easy to just make that line underneath your eye to make it look crisp, and then spread all the concealer away. I like to go right up onto the bridge of the nose and then bring the rest of it, just kind of lightly tapping, but also in a swiping motion, very lightly. Always use very light pressure and bring it out towards your temple to get rid of any extra product. So again, just lightly swipe tapping out towards your temple. Carve underneath. A lot of people say, what if you get into your brows? But I actually do brows last, so you can go ahead and fix that up later. And then up onto the bridge of the nose, and your concealer on your nose area right here is already done. You don't have to worry about that later. And it just creates a brighter and lighter illusion than the darker circles that you might have in the inner corner. So the next step is to always set your eye area with either a setting powder. You're going to want translucent or very light, or a shadow that's very similar to your natural skin tone, and it will just blend right in because this is just setting the concealer so it doesn't move or crease. So next you're going to want a fluffy brush. My favorite two are the Jaclyn Hill JH30 or JH32. You can also get a few other Morphe brushes that are like this, and you want them nice, big, and fluffy. I'm just going to stick with this color palette, so I'm going to go with the lightest shade possible. You don't want to go with a shimmer unless that's the vibe you're going for, but typically you're going to want your base color to be a very light color. So I'm going to tap it onto the corner, get most of the product off of my brush, and then you're lightly going to swipe into the crease. A little bit of circles on the outside to make sure it's blending out, and then into the crease. Very gentle. I always hold the end of the brush to give my hand a little bit more of leeway, and it just makes the brush a little bit more light-handed so you're not pressing too hard. So keep on repeating until you get the shade that you're happy with. I always like to leave the inside from here to here empty. It's okay if a little bit of shadow gets on it, but I'm going to show you why in a minute. And tap it in, and then windshield wiper. So next up, you're going to want to take a darker shadow, but you're also going to want a smaller buffing blending brush. So this is the Morphe M506. This is, if I could only ever buy one brush again from Morphe, this would be it. It is the perfect blending brush. It's the perfect size. You can do basically your whole eye with it. So I'm going to go ahead and touch in with a darker shadow and just tap it into like a V on the outer corner to give it a little bit of depth. You're trying to keep it underneath the crease so the shadow's not going way too high. You want to keep it nice and low to give that depth more on the outer corner. And go back to your concealer brush and just tap on a tiny bit more concealer to the brush, or if you are more comfortable with putting it right on your eyelid, you can. So I'm going to get a little bit on the brush and then look upwards and put it right into the crease. And that is exactly where your shimmer or your lighter color is going to go. I always double up on the concealer because it makes your shimmer a little bit more vibrant, and it also just creates a better illusion for like that cut crease. I'm going about 3/4 to just a little bit over the halfway mark. Color. So I'm going to go in with the shimmer color now. I did use the same exact brush, M166 from Morphe, and I just cleaned off the concealer with a baby wipe. So now we're going to tap into, I'm just going to use this shimmer. I've actually never used this eyeshadow palette. I just got it the other day, and I'm hoping it pans out. I use my finger. Some shimmers just don't, yeah, there we go. Just don't pick up with brushes as much. So if I had just put that on top of just eyeshadow, it wouldn't have the same shimmery popping effect. So that's why I always put a little bit of concealer. Also with my bridesmaids, and makeups that I'm doing, I want that makeup to last, and I find that extra layer of concealer really makes it last all day. So I've had clients message me the next day and say they woke up with their makeup still on, and I don't recommend that, but I understand. So, okay, so I'm gonna go in with the darker color and the M506 again. This is the smaller buffing brush, and just patting in the corner. Now you're going to go over the edge of the shimmer. You're not trying to bring the shimmer onto the corner or anything. You're just trying to buff it in and blend it very, very lightly. So just tap. So I'm going to take a little bit on the tip of the brush. Make sure you're actually tapping right on the tip. If not, you're going to have it all over the place. And we're going to go right in the crease about 3/4 of the way. Now I'm going to take the bigger fluffy brush and go back in with the light shade and buff it all over the top again. This is just blending everything in. I'm just going to tap in a little bit of a darker brown and give it kind of a winged effect liner into the darkest one here, starting on the lash line. Just buff it out. I just want to smoke out the edges a little bit, so I'm going to take a darker brown and smudge out the edge. So I'm actually going to use a different brown. That one just wasn't giving me enough pigment for this look. Bit of the dark shadow, go right on the lash line, right out like it would be a winged liner, and then fill in the corner. Now we gotta clean up the underneath. This is kind of a trust the process look. Even I was a little bit worried. Now we're gonna go into mascara and foundation. I'm gonna show you a few tips to give a really uplifting and glowy effect to your skin. So if you're ever doing mascara on someone else and you're worried that you're going to ruin their makeup look, I always put a finger or a thumb underneath, lift their eyelashes up, and then you're always going to be getting on the tip of their lash without getting it everywhere else, and you're just gonna be getting it on your finger, and that's easy to wipe off. So it's a lot easier if you're lifting their eyelid like that, get them to look down a little bit, and then get it on there. Another way, if you're doing your own and you're not quite getting it to the tip that you want, go ahead and just lift your head up, almost close your eye, and then wiggle it on there. That's gonna give you a very good application to get the length on there, because then you're just hitting the tips of the lashes and not the base, because you don't always need the thickness at the base. Sometimes that might look a little bit clumpy, so keep that thickness and the length at the tip. So I'm gonna show you how to do your entire face with just this one brush. So I'm gonna go ahead and start with the Dewy Coconut Setting Mist from e.l.f. and just get my skin nice and ready. So I'm gonna be using the Fit Me foundation in the shade 110 Porcelain. So I'm just gonna put a little bit onto the brush here, and then we're going to start on the cheeks and just dab it here, 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 and here, and we're gonna tap it in. You do not need a lot of foundation with this brush. It really spreads it around. If you are a makeup artist like me, you definitely want to make sure that your clients are all one shade. So don't forget to do the tops of the ears, behind the ears, and the neck and the décolleté. You want everything to look very seamless and one color, one tone. So don't forget those areas. Also, don't forget the underneath of the nose, around the nose and the creases. It's okay to get them to move their face around to get it on there. You really want to make sure that their makeup is looking seamless. Next step is going to be your bronzer. So this is my cream bronzer. You're going to put this in the areas that you feel like would naturally get sun-kissed. So basically on the tops of everything. Tops of your nose, tops of your cheeks, and top of your forehead, a little bit around the lips for a tiny bit of contour without being contour. And then you're gonna go ahead and use the same brush and just tap it in. Always make sure you're going into the hairline, gets rid of excess product so it's not spreading down too far onto the forehead. So going in with Joy from Rare Beauty, I'm just gonna put a little bit kind of in between the apple of your cheek and the tops of the cheek where the highlighter go. This is probably too much product, but we're gonna go ahead and give it a go. Just tapping it in, same brush again. Bring it up over to the temple and into the eyebrow area a little bit. Again, trust the process with this one. We are going to be adding concealer, so it's going to tone it all down anyway. Over the nose. Go ahead and grab your concealer of choice. You're going to want to put a dab underneath your eye here, a little bit to lift the eye. A little bit on the chin area. Me, I like to go around the nose and a little bit on the forehead. That's for extra coverage, but also I get a little bit rosy on the cheeks and nose area. So that is just to make sure that I'm not too rosy through the day. I have two concealer brushes that I actually really like. So this is a Sephora number 71, and it's an angled brush, really good for concealer. And then I have the big buffing brush, and this is the M173 again from Morphe. So I'm going to use my Sephora one and just tap it under. Now if you have it spread out to where you want it, you're going to go back in with this Real Techniques brush again and just buff it in. So now that that is all blended in, I told you to trust the process because that blush was looking super, super Cheeto. So I'm gonna go ahead and use my favorite brush to set under the eyes. This is the Morphe E48, and it's got a beautiful tip on it, so you can just go right under and tap it in. So I'm just doing the triangle here, under the eye. And a little bit on the chin, forehead. Now, if you want to go full glam, you're going to cut that under. And if you're not going full glam, just go ahead and just softly and very gentle, go ahead and set the rest of the face. People say it's like the thing of the past to set your entire face, but as a makeup artist, I set your entire face, because if you come back at me a few hours later and say that your makeup is coming off, I'm not gonna be happy, you're not gonna be happy, we're setting that face. I'm choking on powder. There was so much powder. I'm choking right now. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and use my absolute favorite brow brush. This is the Morphe 410. When I do group lessons and stuff, people are very surprised to see that I don't use like an angled brush or pomade or pencil. This is just honestly the quickest way to apply someone's brow. You can control how much product's going on it. You can control the angles. It's just the easiest. I don't know, this year I started using it. It is my absolute favorite. I find this brush just does the trick for anything. So I'm gonna go ahead and start halfway through the brow and just start brushing it upwards. I am using the Morphe powder in the shade Hazelnut. So you can do it one of two ways. You can start halfway through, or you can kind of carve it from the front and do a line the whole way around it like that. And then you can fill it in. I always recommend starting halfway to the end, because if you have too much product on your brush, it's going to eventually wear off by the time you get to the front. You don't want too big of a block brow in the front. So we're just gonna brush it in really lightly. So another tip of mine is, especially if you're a makeup artist, but at home too, you can get these at Dollarama or on Amazon in bulk pack, and they are disposable mascara wands. I always bend the tip, and then you can get it into your brow wax or brow lift, whatever you're using, a lot easier. And we're just gonna brush upwards to give that nice full effect. Now for extra setting, a lot of people probably just leave their face like this. I'm gonna go in with the extra powders, because this is my favorite way to add that extra pop of color or highlight to my face. So I'm gonna go in with some blush and some bronzer and some highlight. These are all powders, and you're going to go in with a fluffy brush. I'm gonna go ahead and use my favorite setting powder brush, and this is the E48 again, and it's just that perfect round tip. So it is perfect for tapping on any other product. So I thought this was a bronzer. I bought it yesterday, and it's Essence the Blush, and it's bespoke. So I'm gonna try it out. I really did think I was buying a bronzer because it looks like a bronzer. So I was excited to try out a shimmery bronzer. I think it's actually fairly similar to Joy that I put on, so it's probably not even gonna show up that well. But I can tell that it did give me a little bit of a sheen glow, and it's pretty. But I'm gonna have to try it again to see the real color of it. But I do like it, so stay tuned. We'll do a better review on that next time. I'm just gonna tap in some Shelly from Benefit. It's a little bit on the top of my cheek where my highlighter also is going to go. And then blend it right into the edge of my shadow and the tail of my brow. I'm gonna apply a little bit of Benefit on the top of my nose and buff it out. And a little bit on the cheeks. We're gonna tap it in. So for lips, I did Rimmel London Stay Matte. This is the shade Strapless, and I'm gonna go ahead and put on some gloss. And for lips, I went ahead and added some NARS Orgasm. This is stunning. It's that rosy peachy gold. And that is the final look. Thanks for tuning into my video. I hope you enjoyed it. I really had fun making it. I know this was a trust the process look. A few of the times there was even moments that I was like, when in doubt, buff it out. When in doubt, blend it out. So makeup you can't really mess up. Have fun with it. This is a perfect day if you want that midi to full glam. Soften it up on your face if you don't want that full glam, and turn it into a soft glam by making it a little bit more sheer and light-handed on the foundation. So thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed my tutorial today, and there's a few tips and tricks that might have helped you out. So my name is Frankie, and we'll see you next time.